Hey everybody, welcome. It's going to be a different kind of video today. I thought I'd take a bit of time and sit down here with a cup of coffee and go through a drawing in real time mostly and give you some sense of what's happening in there. There'll be some time lapse, of course, because I don't think anybody wants to sit here 2 hours, but let's do as much real time as we can. So this is a drawing that I did a few weeks ago, which is technically 2-point perspective, but everything in there can be applied to 1 point as well. You'll see as we go. So this is sketchbook stuff. I'm not trying to make the prettiest illustration. This is practice. This is, maintaining skills and working on new ones. So we start by doing a little frame. This is something I streamed on Twitch, by the way, if you're ever curious to catch me while I draw. I'll put the link in the comments and you can come and hang out. Always happy to answer questions if you have them. Now, let me burn myself with my coffee as we do this. Yep, I did. So once we got a frame, it's going to be about placing a couple of vanishing points. One will be inside the frame and the other one on the outside. I could do these drawings in 1 point, but I think they're a bit more exciting if you don't have parallel lines in the background. So I like to put 1 point on my left page of the sketchbook here, just to make it a bit more dynamic. Now at this stage I'm just trying to figure out what's a good place for those vanishing points. Do I want to see a lot of ceiling? Do I want to see a lot of floor? This is going to be an interior scene. Some kind of office at night. No humans, because I'm still afraid of doing humans. Plus liminal spaces are cool. In my mind. So I'm putting both vanishing points on the same line, which is going through the picture. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put them. So here's one, and the other one will be distant on the sketchbook page on the left. So first stages are trying to define the space in which the drawing will be, and that means trying to figure out where the ceiling and the floor will be. How much of each do I want to show in the picture? And figuring out where I put my walls, and all that basically defines the volume in which the scene will be happening. This is all guesswork. There's no rule. I'm just trying to imagine something that looks reasonably proportionate and gives me the room I need to put the details. I know there'll be a chair in this drawing. I know there'll be details like paneling and possibly machines on the walls. And I know there will be a window in the back wall. That's pretty much all I have at this stage when I start the drawing. There we go. Here we can see 3 walls, ceiling, floor. Now it's about placing things in there, make it look sci-fi and reasonably interesting to look at. So here I'm already trying to figure out where I'm going to put that window. I'm being very light with a pencil, so it's easier to erase when the time comes. I don't have any precise idea in mind at this stage. It's just about experimenting with shapes, trying to find something that works, that looks remotely interesting. Again, it's only the shape at this stage. We'll be putting texture and details and colors and light later on, so there doesn't need to be a lot of thought going into what's what and where. So here I'm trying to think about this wall here on the left side and what could make it fun or interesting. I like to use those shapes where you do a sort of a cut in the wall. It's a convenient place for me to put screens and machines of different sizes. It just makes it a bit more interesting. It gives both some detail in the structure, and also it gives, because this part is so recessed, it gives you the impression the wall is thick, and that just helps the drawing have some mass, if you will. It doesn't look like everything's paper thin. So I'm just placing roughly this cutout here. I know I'll change it again later. It's just basically to remember that here I want to put something like that. I know I want a chair as well somewhere in this drawing, probably around the center. And chairs can be tricky. It's part of the challenging bits in drawings for me. So first you have to figure out its footprint, decide how big the base will be. So to do that I just do basically a square in perspective. And that will give me the footprint of my chair. I'll turn this into a bit of a cube, and I'll have a frame in which to draw my chair in perspective. Construction lines, I can't emphasize how important they are in this kind of drawing. They are your best friends. They are what allows you to make sure perspective is right, that proportions are right, and they avoid stupid mistakes. So I can't overemphasize how useful they are. So once I have this, now I'm just trying to figure out, okay, where's the seat going to be? And I want it to be a little higher than this line. There you go. Because otherwise the front of the seat and that line in the background will overlap, and it's not super pretty if it's just one single line. It's nicer if your seat is over or below that line. Once I've got that, I have basically lines to figure out the height of the back of the chair. So I'm still doing here the seat, and from that I can pretty much figure out the right height for the back. It's always nice to give it a bit of an angle, so I'm trying not to follow the vertical, but angle things a little bit. There we go, what I meant with the seat that goes over that line behind it. We're going to throw a bit of a curve here on top. And to figure out that curve, I do a nice little square. I join the diagonals. And that gives me the center line for this square, and that will be the top of my curve. There we go, vertical here. And that vertical shows the top of my curve. So, no guesswork needed, I know where it's going. That's what I mean by the use of construction lines, and you know how helpful they are. Maybe when you've done 1,000 you can probably eyeball this sort of thing, but it's healthy to still make the construction lines, I think. So we're throwing a bit of a curvy chair here. It's coming together nicely. We have the legs here. 4 because it's easy. Simple lines, no worries. There's clearly a lot of thinking going on in my head at this stage. I don't know what I'm doing. I guess I'm thinking about what I'm going to do with that ceiling. Again, I know I want some light source, and a single light source, I think, is a really, really good trick to make some pretty dramatic images, whether it's daytime, nighttime, indoor, outdoor. Allows you to get bright areas, dark areas, high contrast, and contrast is one of your best friends when it comes to drawing. So yeah, big single light source. I'll cheat a bit with cast shadows because that's one of my areas of weakness. But I also won't shy away from it completely because I need to practice them. But we'll get to that in a sec. So you see now I'm doing those 2 big panels on the ceiling, and in my head there'll be some kind of light source. I'm also already thinking color at this stage because I know I'm going to keep it pretty monochromatic. I got those bluish cool gray markers I intend to use for this. The same ones as I used in the shadows of the drawing above it. So we're popping out the ink here, and this is my favorite pen, the best pen ever made if you ask me. That's a Pilot G-Tech C40.4. And I love to sketch with it because it allows you to make some super fine, super light lines. And I think it's also great for inking. So this is my best friend. This is the pen I use for 90% of what I do. If I had to be on a desert island with a stock of pens, it'd be these. I'm still not decided about the exact shape of that window right here. But now that I'm inking, I kind of have to commit to something. So, hesitation. Should I move this line? Should I not move it? Is it correct? What do I do with it? And in the end, it'll stay there. It's this I want to work with. So now I'm trying to visualize what line would be interesting here. So okay, let's go. And now it's done. Now we have the shape of our window, and that can't change anymore. Alright, this won't be crazy exciting, so I'll time-lapse through it probably. And we'll get back when most of this is inked. Now we're gonna do some outlines. So basically any edge that has an empty space behind it, I'm going to use this line to draw it. It helps make things pop. It also gives a reasonably comic book style, I guess, to the images. It's something I picked up looking at product designers and designers in general. Making a thick outline on your drawing really helps it pop out. So we've done the chair here, and we're gonna time lapse through the rest. The principle is always the same. Basically, if there's an empty space behind that edge, then I will use the paper mate on it. I should be using the brush pen I've got, but I'm not really good with it yet. So let's get through this. I'm also using it here to indicate where there would be a recess. Like that big flat panel in the middle would actually be a little higher in the ceiling than everything around it. You probably see what I mean now. Whereas here it's aligned because there's nothing behind it. So these are the two things I use these pens for. Now that we have all these walls and shapes and flat surfaces in place, time to throw in a bit of detail. So I was talking about tricks earlier in the video. Little panels like that are really useful when you do sci-fi or even just architecture. It's a good way to give an impression of sense of use and texture. It fills up the page. It looks pretty. And yeah, from now on, the drawing is going to be a lot about filling empty spaces. I've got a lot of flat surfaces with nothing to them. So let's try and do something to make them look a little more interesting. Here I'm just going to do those segments that could be doors or drawers and give them a hint of texture and a hint of depth. The depth, like I did before with the Papermate, just to indicate a little crease or recess. And then for texture, a bunch of parallel lines go a long way. So I use it often, and I'll use it again here. You'll see what I mean in a second. Now in this little corner here, I always like to put a bunch of little screens in those angled surfaces, like on top here. Buttons, flip switches, because they're fun to draw and I think they look awesome. A bunch of buttons. And usually I'll try to fit in a couple of VHS decks or good old audio tape decks. And in this case, I'll do both. For the surfaces where I don't want to put too much work on or just make them too crowded, good old-fashioned cut lines like what I'm doing here and what I've done on the back wall are a super useful way of breaking up a single surface and making it look more interesting. It's also very sci-fi, so it really works with the theme. I always try to put some and make it look like, it's not, the wall's not naked. There's some structure, there's something on it. It's simple, it's quick, and I think it gives a good result. It also allows you to place some highlights later on in the game. So yeah, ceiling, walls, floor, let's do them all. All right, now we've done this, and I've added little details left and right. Time to get into the color. I know this will be the light source, so I'm using the lightest cool gray I have at hand for these two panels, because they'll be the brightest thing around. After that, the theory is that the ceiling will be the darkest part of the drawing. The floor will be the second brightest after the light source here on top. And anything in between, I'll try to have some kind of a gradient from dark to light as we go down. So anything that's facing the ceiling will be bright. Everything that's facing the floor will be dark. And trying to go in between on the walls. To do that, I'll use a couple of different markers, and I'll work in layers. Alcohol markers, if you do several layers, you'll end up with a darker tone. Here I'm just looking for the ones I'll eventually be using. That's going to be another big time-lapse moment. So if you have any questions about the what's and the hows and all that, put them in the comments, and I'll be happy to try and answer them or develop something in the next video. So here we go. Ceiling is going to be the darkest. We'll have a few layers, and then we'll try to go down and make it brighter. I'll also have to throw in cast shadow from the chair. I know I struggled a bit with that, so what I ended up trying to do was to blur it, not to have too much of a sharp edge on it. You'll see what I mean when we get there. Alright, let's time-lapse this, and remember what I said. Dark on top, clear on the bottom, and try to get a gradient in between. Here we go. Here I was thinking there was still a little too much empty space. So to fill up this wall here, I repeated the pattern that I've put on the right hand side of the drawing. Something I use often. I think it's a nice filler. Now, looking at it now, I don't know if that was absolutely necessary, but that's how I felt on the moment. So just a few little indents in the panels and some texture in it. And I'll go over with the same marker that I use for the shadows to indicate a little depth to them. So to round up this drawing, or this video anyway, a few more panel lines left and right here just to give that a little more texture. And we're going to finish by applying some highlights with a Posca pen on some seams and places that would be reflecting a little bit of light. That again just pushes the contrast, having a deep black like this, like I just used, contrast with a very opaque white, I think works really, really nice, and it makes just tiny little a tiny little difference that in the end makes for a much nicer feel to the image. So we're almost done, and this is the most amateurish video you'll see in a long time. Hopefully the next ones will become more interesting as I get used to doing this. I know it's been a lot of time-lapse, and I probably said a lot of nonsense, but if you have any comments, please knock yourselves out in the comment section. Questions, anything. Do give a like and a subscribe if you've enjoyed a little bit of this. I would really, really like to find the time and resources to do some more of these. Probably a little more in a how to draw sense with more technical details and maybe some insights. But I need your help for that. So I need you to let me know what your thoughts, what you would like to know, ideas for future videos. Just show some love and we'll make some more. So we're going to go now for the last bit of time-lapse, where I'm going to add a couple of little highlights. And that will be it for this drawing. The whole session for me drawing this took about 2 hours, 40 minutes, let's say 2.5 hours, including breaks. And do take breaks when you draw. It's important. Go stretch. It's good for the mind, it's good for the body. You'll need it. yeah, that was a fun 2.5 hours. That's a nice page in my sketchbook. I'll try to make videos like this once a week, give or take, let's hope. Take the best drawing of the week and just do some kind of explanation behind it. Again, future videos will be more structured and probably more entertaining to look at. So keep an eye out. Do come check them out. Again, give a like, give a follow, give a subscribe, give a shout, and keep on supporting me. Thank you very much. Let's watch the end of this, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.